Welcome to another American TESOL Presents Free Friday webinars. I am your host, Shelly Sanchez Terrell, and we are here every Friday. We have been for the last 7 years, I believe. We are here because of American TESOL. At American TESOL, we do offer these free webinars, but we also offer courses face-to-face where you can get certifications for teaching with technology, teaching English language learners, also teaching young learners English, teaching children English. And we also offer those online as well as face-to-face, these certifications. And they give you the possibility to teach all around the world. So you should check those out. You can always invite a friend. Every Friday we are here and we talk about different some of the latest technologies like we are today, but we also talk about really practical ways of teaching language learners and other learners, young learners to adults to teens. So I think we've covered quite a lot, and if you want to find any of the recordings, you can go to youtube.com/user/ATSOL to find any of those recordings. Today we're going to talk about augmented reality, virtual reality, and wearable technology. Kind of let you know a definition, basic definitions of them, how they all kind of interact with each other, and how you can use them in your classroom. You can afford a class set for your classroom. So we know that there are definitely teachers from all over the world that will be participating today, attending. And so we do want to give you options on how you can afford this. So this is very affordable, and how it really does help open and bridge the gap with your learners, especially language learners in places that may not be able to travel. I've taught in over 20 countries, and I've worked in some areas that are really poor areas. And so using some of these technologies has helped those students to be able to travel virtually, to explore and introduce them to other cultures that they may not necessarily, they may have read about in the news, or they may see in the newspaper, and they may not understand all of the things that are going around in the world. These technologies also help students get moving. They get them moving and running, and so that's really good, especially for the summer or breaks, if you want your students to encourage them to keep learning. So we're going to talk about three today. We're going to talk about augmented reality, virtual reality, and wearable technologies. And the reason I wanted to talk about all of them is because all of them, sometimes they complement each other. So for example, one of the most famous ones that we have here for augmented reality, the latest craze, if anyone can recognize what this little app is, then you'll be able to know that is actually coming out with the wearable. And then virtual realities in a way are wearables too. You can wear them, but they offer a different experience than augmented reality. So there's definitely a lot of learning that can happen, and all of these can kind of sometimes complement each other. One of the reasons I think these are great for not only the future of education technology, because I do believe these three different technologies are going to be that they're going to grow, that there's going to be more and more use of them in education, in language learning, because I really do think that these are ways to get your students to be more global, and then also because it engages them and it sparks curiosity, but it's so engaging. And one of the reasons why it's engaging is because it takes the student, when you look at a book, the thing about a book, or even like a worksheet, a handout, is that you just read it on paper. And although you can use your imagination to really think about what, or imagine the world, sometimes for many students, especially language learners or those that have different ways of learning, visual learners, they want to be immersed in it. The way to engage them, to spark their curiosity, is actually when that world is around them. And the way you can put the world around them is to really have different elements like virtual reality. Virtual reality means that once you're in that world, once you put in something like a virtual reality headset, then you're in a brand new world, and that can be a world from the 1920s. It could be a world that's from a book. So for example, like Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings, you can be in that world. Or it could be, for example, a world that it could be the ocean, and you're swimming in the ocean. And for many, or even in space, and for many of us around the world and our learners, that's not a possibility. That's not something that they will get to experience in their lifetime in a real way. So for example, although I would love to go to space, it's probably not that I'm going to ever go to space. So virtual reality or augmented reality or even wearables can really bring me into that world, and I can kind of get that experience. So it's very engaging. It really helps excite learners, and it really gives them access to things that they may not be able to afford, like travel and things like that. So it's really kind of cool that you can do that with your learners now. So what are the benefits of using these technologies before I go into what each is, the differences, and then also ways that you can use them in your classroom? Well, it's sensory learning and emotional learning. So what that means is, especially with virtual reality, sometimes they use the senses, all five senses. They even use the sense of smell. This might be if you've ever been to an amusement park, or even now at different malls, they have what's called a 4D ride. Sometimes they'll spray you with things like water. I was able to, in 1996, I traveled to Florida and I went to Universal Studios, and they had a lot of these rides, and they would trap you in this world, and then all of a sudden you would ride around and shake, and things would spray on you when you were seeing it as well. So that can be a sense of sensory learning, and sometimes they put smells to make it more real. It's not always that. Actually, it's more basic now. Now it's like seeing all around you. There are different companies doing great things with sensory learning, where students put on a headset, and for example, they can experience what a 12-year-old girl goes through in the Syrian refugee camp. So that is one of the virtual reality videos that is out there, and that they allow people. It's an 8-minute short video, and it gets people to cry. It really touches them when they see things like this. And so it can also be tied to emotions. It can really help people who may have preconceived notions and judgments about other cultures and traditions, is that they're able to experience this kind of learning. So it's experiential. In other words, they go through an experience. It's not just the learning, but when they're in a different world, sometimes they're able to go and they're able to have these kind of special experiences that a book, although we would love, you can go on all these other experiences in a book. And of course, I think that that's definitely part of it that can complement each other. If you're reading a book, if you have a lesson plan where you're reading about a historical period, or you're learning about a culture or geography, or you're going to Skype with another classroom from another country, that this can be a way to have an added element of experience. It really sparks curiosity, imagination, and there's a lot of movement. You don't only wear it, but a lot of times you'll walk around, especially with, and Luis was saying that sometimes with virtual reality, for those that it can be limiting. If, for example, if you have limited eyesight, or you have different types of learning needs or anything. But the great thing is that wearables, there's things like bands and Fitbits that are more able to bring in to help with those kind of learning experiences as well. And wearables are accessible to many as well. So I think that's really good. And they also spark exploration. They get your students interested in more. And sometimes I love books, and I'm always reading with the text. With the textbook, I get excited about the learning. But my students, some of them, they just don't care. They're just like, it doesn't click and it doesn't engage them as much as it excites me. So with virtual reality or wearables or even augmented reality, it does get your students interested. Like it gets them curious and wanting to explore and learn more about the topic. So how can you afford these? So really quick, we'll go through this and then I'll talk about, the actual things that we're learning about today. But how is it affordable? Well, there are teachers who have had grants. They do a lot of grants to get a set of, it depends what kind of technology you want. So there's a lot of different ones I'll introduce today. They're really cheap options like cardboard. So for example, this cardboard they got here, I had to put it together. It's a little difficult, but it was about $3 on Amazon. That's American dollars, but you can find these on Amazon, cheap, really cardboard sets that really can make it to where you can do different things. You can download free apps. So a lot of the apps, the great thing is that if you do have a mobile device, an Android, a smartphone, an Android tablet, a smart tablet, even the Kindle Fire, you can download, or even Windows, free apps. The apps are usually free for these. You can have students share devices, mix paper with AR and VR, so that way you don't have to have one for every single student. A lot of times I'll bring in like just my ones that I purchased for myself because I have a lot of fun, and so I'll bring that in the classroom, and then my students will share. So when somebody's doing something with paper, then we'll share and we'll go around. Cards are fantastic. That's one of the best ways to really save on technology if you have a cart. So if you have stations where you have a bunch of carts, and then your students complete each station. So for example, there might be a reading station. There might be where they go through the book and they're reading a small chapter or a few paragraphs about what they're going to see in the virtual reality, or maybe they get a list of kind of things. So that's, they're still reading about it. And then the next one is they go to the VR station. So if you have several stations where they look at pictures or something, if you break it up into different stations, then you don't need a lot of these technologies for your students, for every single student, if you can't afford it. There are pilot programs. So sometimes if you look in your area, if you look under Microsoft, you look under sometimes Verizon, a lot of different pilot programs are out there to help, that'll give you these technologies, because there's a lot of companies that are needing to do test studies. Crowdfunding, and that's one of the most popular ways. So if you use something like Donors Choose, there's Pledge Sense, Kickstarter. I mean, there's a lot of these different platforms, and we actually have a previous one, how to get tech into your classroom, that webinar, and tech funding. We had one before, and I'll add that to the notes later, but crowdfunding is really a popular way that teachers can get these in their classroom. So let's start with augmented reality. Augmented reality is when you can use it either with a mobile device, and those are some of the most popular ways, or sometimes you can put a headset. What it does is that it basically adds this layer on your world. So whatever you're looking at, it adds a layer, and it can add characters. It can add, one of the most popular ones I really like, but it's not available in the US. It's, I think, only UK, but it was called EcoBugs. And what it would do is, this app, the students, they would just hold their phone and they would see a little bug crawl across the yard, or the schoolyard, or wherever they were, and they had to identify and do all these activities with bugs. And I thought that was really cool. The bug wasn't there in real life. It was just augmented reality. So a better definition is probably one from Wikipedia, of course, which is just telling you that in your physical real world environment, these are different elements that are added, such as sound, video, graphics. A lot of times there are games, and one of the most popular ones is, of course, Pokemon Go. So if you've heard about Pokemon Go, then you have heard of, you definitely have heard about different augmented reality, like the impact of augmented reality. So what are some ways that we can use augmented reality before we go into the actual sources? Well, there's a couple of ways. what we can do is, let's see here. I think I opened something that made this slow. Okay, there I am, back again. So you can animate reading. So that's one way we've talked about, where students can read something and then they can go and they can use an app to make that reading come to life, the characters come to life, things like that. You can, a real popular way is through writing prompts. So a student will see a character and then you'll use that as a prompt. So for example, the Pokemon Go, if they go and they see a Pokemon that they're trying to capture, then they can talk about the experience of capturing it. They can come up with a story on, you know, what the battle was like, or maybe they can come up with a story about what the Pokemon, you know, when they met him, how that Pokemon was, that character. They can animate posters. They're able to take a regular poster board or a poster presentation or even a billboard or even a magazine or even a newspaper they create or a book they create, and they're able to create augmented reality characters, or they're able, and I'll show you some free apps for that, where they can bring that to life. Digital storytelling is another way. And then it could be as a lesson starter. So you want to talk about, for example, the 1920s, then maybe you can get an augmented reality character, something that your students, you can pass around. They can view it on the device. Each student passes around, watches on the device. And then that character has told them something about the 1920s. They see how the character is dressed. They can, you know, learn about that. So this is what augmented reality looks like. So this is, you see the tree, you see everything that's in the world. Okay, now this is your phone held up, and on it is this layering, and on the layering you see this little Pokemon. Okay, tells you a little bit of information about the Pokemon, and what you have to do is you have to throw a ball until you capture this Pokemon. Okay, so without the app, you wouldn't have seen this. You would have walked around this tree 100 times, and you would have never guessed that there was this little creature lying there that would make life fun and you wanting to interact with it. See, so there are a lot of ways that augmented reality makes um, everyday life in the world pretty interesting. So that's one that you can see as well. Um, let's see. So Pokemon Go will soon have a wearable. A wearable is a little bit different. So you can have different types of wearables. Here's so one of the ones we have, which is Fitbit, but a wearable is something that you wear. It's a technology that you wear, and that it interacts. It does something with technology. So for example, with this particular one, what it does is anytime there's a Pokemon near you, you don't need your phone to know that. So what it's going to do is it's going to have it's going to vibrate and let you know. We have another app, another wearable here. Well, later on, Jake Duncan will talk to you about the different wearables he has and how he uses them. Another really cool game that does this with the world around you, that's probably more for adults and a little bit more complicated, so you can play this with adults. Pokemon Go is really popular with everybody, actually, but even young learners like Pokemon Go because it's little funny characters. But Ingress is the original augmented reality. Any place you go, and that's the great thing, is that these things work all over the world. Pokemon Go and Ingress work with Google Earth maps. So what they do is they put that layer on all these maps, and it's worldwide. So all of us here can find one of these augmented reality. You can test it on your apps. And then what you can do is you can play. Okay, you play, you interact. And a lot of times, some of us wouldn't pay attention to the world around us unless we had a game. So for our students, it can be really great, especially for the summer. It gets them moving, interested in different structures. And then also sometimes augmented reality will give, it's not necessarily always games. That's just the most popular way it is used right now. But there are some apps that will give you a history. They'll there was this one app that a company I was working with in Germany, and I'm not sure if they finished developing the app yet. But what it would do is take famous places, for example, in the UK, and when you would go there, if you look through at the phone through this app, then what you would do is you would see how it looked like in the 1940s or 50s, and it would show you the history that took place. Like you might see a famous historical event that took place, and you would see the characters interacting and creating that like right in front of you. So it was really, really cool. And that was really neat. And then it would go away. It was just like an added layer there. There are ways to just play group sports with augmented reality. You can see here I'm playing with Richard Whitehead. He's at Nutrich on Twitter. And so what we're playing is AR soccer. So what it does is it puts a fake soccer ball. So there's my phone, and then there's a fake soccer ball, and him and I are kicking this this augmented reality soccer ball, and we're playing together. So this is really great because you can have your students do things, especially language learners, where they give instructions and directions. They can say, I'm kicking to the left, I'm kicking to the right. You know, they can yell things out like goal, and so they can learn that way. And then they can have fun. It's really easy to do. You usually just need a white space and then it'll come out. There's other types of augmented reality sports as well, basketball kinds, and they're for Android and iOS. So one of the most popular ways that teachers use augmented reality is with Quiver. Quivervision.com. It's for iOS and Android. What it does is your students color, and then you print out those papers. You use, of course, an app, the free app, and then your students can see it. So Quiver, your students are also able to draw things, and those will come to life as well. Teachers love this app. They have some for every holiday, for different events around the world. If you're trying to teach, for example, we have the Olympics, so you can, you know, definitely have this, and this can be a way to spark discussion about the Olympics. They can color their favorite team colors for the players. They can talk about who are their favorite players and things like that. So this is really nice. You just print out what are called targets, and you have to print these out. They have free ones, and then they have ones that you can buy. So this is a real easy way to integrate, and a cheap way to integrate augmented reality in the class. Teachers use that with they also use, what they do is do writing prompts with it. So then the students write a digital story or writing prompt after. Anomaly is an app for iOS, and it's a book. It is book on science fiction. It's a really fantastic book, and it actually makes the characters come to life in augmented reality and tell you about science. It tells you about spaceships. It tells you about you know, future technology, also like quasars, and really enriched kind of thinking there. So you can look for books, AR books on your device that your students can also read, that have a lot of reading in them, which is what Anomaly is. And then somebody was talking in the chat earlier about Erasmus. So let's say even better to get your students to create their own augmented reality, and they can. There are two apps that are really good for that. They're free. They're available for iOS and Android. And those two you can see here. There's a magazine article, and then this student created an augmented reality figure or character or something to engage somebody with it. So anybody who goes to that magazine that also has the Erasmus app, which is free, can scan over it, and they can see this really cool augmented reality that somebody else created. You can create it. Your students can create it. So that's Erasmus. And the other one is Layar. So both of them are recommended by teachers and are ways that you can get your students to make a book come to life, to make a story, to make history come to life. And those are some ideas. You can find many, many more ideas and tons of resources if you go to engagetheirminds.wordpress.com. And Terry here has this wonderful blog. I love it. I read it a lot. But what she does is she actually gives you this chart that tells you about augmented reality apps clickable tutorials for each one. So if you see one that you really like, you can click on hers and she's gonna give you a tutorial, lesson plans, and activities. So it's gonna get so much more information about augmented reality. Now, virtual reality is different than the augmented reality, because whereas augmented reality just does a layer on top of the world that you're around or your environment, virtual reality actually puts you in a whole different world, okay? So with virtual reality, you are experiencing a new culture, a new world. It could even be a fictitious world. It could be that I put on a virtual reality headset, and all of a sudden, 360, everywhere I turn around, there are characters running, there are antelopes. I'm in Africa, and I can see even a bear, or a giraffe right above me. So virtual reality is really, really powerful. It's very immersive. And what happens, what you can do with this is you can, of course, take students to, you can animate readings, you can take them on virtual field trips, you can have writing prompts, digital storytelling, things like that. You can use it as a lesson starter. The easiest way, I think, to be able to create virtual reality lessons where your students can go to a field trip and really experience things is with ThingLink. ThingLink has a free summer challenge where you can use theirs for free. So I'm going to go ahead and add that for you. And so if you're able to, if you're looking for something to learn this this summer, this is a great way to do it. ThingLink has so many resources. So what they let you do is they let you take 360 pictures, pictures, videos. And what they let you do is they let you create little hotspots to so your students, not only are they experiencing that world, let's say they're in the ocean and they're swimming and they see a fish that they've never seen before. Well, ThingLink lets you take that video. There's a lot of these videos on YouTube, and it lets you add like a little point. And when your students touch that point, they'll see something that pops up and it'll tell them about that fish. Oh, this is a clownfish. The clownfish eats this. The clownfish is very poisonous if you try to eat it, or it can be very dangerous. This is what it preys on. So that's some of the things that ThingLink lets you do. If you want to learn, then go ahead and do the ThingLink challenge, the VR 26, the ThingLink VR challenge. They also have this really great ThingLink. They did this whole entire where teachers, how they have created their own lessons with ThingLink in the classroom. And what I'll do is I'll give you a let me go ahead and give you my bookmarks on that, because there was so much information that it would be hard to cover with all of this. So there you go. You'll be able to see it'll say ThingLink Slam. It was the VR Slam, virtual reality slam with ThingLink. The most popular way that teachers are using virtual reality right now is taking their students on different trips around the world with Google Cardboard. So the way this is Google Cardboard. And the way it works is you open this flap, you have to put it together, you make the kits. If you get a really cheap one, then it's going to take you a while to make it. That's the only drawback. And so what you do is you put your phone in there, okay? Make sure your phone is facing where they have lenses. So your phone, the back part is there. And then you just put it in there, and then you can strap it in. You strap it in, and then all of a sudden you can go to a 360 Google Street View. There's a lot of things, and then you can see a virtual reality. You can experience it all around you. They're very inexpensive. You can get a class set on Amazon. It's really cheap. And now they just came out, and this is very recent that they came out, what Google Expedition. So these are especially made for teachers. You can choose any expedition and your students do all the learning. So you don't even have to create these yourself. There's a whole bunch of them on Google Expeditions. If you get the Android, it's only an Android app right now, but you can use it with your cardboard and you can do really cool, wonderful things if you have this free Android app. It has a lesson and a kit and everything. Your students can actually also be part of the experience of 360. Let's say you take a 360 picture. Your students can upload to the Google Street View. And then they help everyone around the world learn with their picture. So that's really, really cool. It puts it on a Google map. And then people can put on Google Cardboard, and then they can see all of that. So that's one way that your students can really add to everyone's learning. The New York Times has some really great, inspiring virtual field trips, or where you can learn. You can check out the New York Times Learning. And then there's many, many more. And of course, if you go to shellyterrell.com/cooltech, I'm going to put all the resources there, and you'll find them in the Pearl Trees. And finally, before we run out of time, because we are a little over, is I'm going to have my special guest speaker now talk about wearable technologies, because wearable technologies are a little bit different than augmented reality and also virtual reality. You can find more information if you go to my Pearl Trees. There's tons. I have one on VR. I have one on AR and augmented reality, and one on wearables. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Jake Duncan here. He's, I'll put in his Twitter later, but he buys a whole bunch of wearables. So he's going to show you all of the different wearables that he has and the cool things that they do.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelly. She's saying I spend too much money on these things. Well, the first and I think the most popular wearable that many people have now, we've got Jawbone Ups, a few of those. These are the old versions, the original ones. The most popular wearable fitness band would be far and away, I think, the Fitbit right now. And I got my new Jawbone Up 2 that I use often as well. And we wanted to share the Xiaomi Mi bands, which are the cheapest. I think they were about $13 when they came out. They're about $10 now. So this is great for use really with any group of kids. Particularly a lot of PE teachers are using them right now to monitor the activities for their students. Those all work in conjunction with an app if you'd like to have them challenge each other. That used to be called Matchup, but is now called Stride Kick. And so those let them battle each other depending on whichever one you've got. It doesn't matter which band you've got, you'll be able to have students do walking challenges or just challenges for a certain amount of time. So really cool stuff. Okay, what are we're looking at? Okay, so the Mayo band from Thalmic Labs is basically a device that you wear on your arm, and it will allow you to control things. So a lot of presenters are using them to control their presentations. To turn it on or off, you'll just tap your two fingers into these two fingers. Oh, there we go. Together, and that'll allow you to control it to turn your volume up for something. If you want to turn it up, you just make that gesture. So it basically recognizes all of the muscle movements in your arm to figure out what things you would like to do. Yes, so you can definitely control your presentations with it, Peggy. It's pretty awesome. You have to get used to it. If you want to move forward a slide, you just kind of move your hands well, actually, I'm moving it the wrong way, but for the camera, you'd move it to the right to go to the next slide. And if you want to turn it off to make sure you don't do anything else accidentally, then you would just put your two fingers together again. And so you slide forward and backward with slides, but it also works with television. You can pause things, you can have your radio going or change your channel, turn your channel up. Cool stuff. So that's a really neat one that I like to use. Washing dishes is a great thing for that. The next one I wanted to share, this is my favorite, is the Capture Audio Band. It's a KAPT. Oh, you can see it there, huh? No, it's not. Oh, there it is. So the Capture Band, it's at captureaudio.com. Basically, there's an app that does the same thing for free, but this is the wearable that I have in class. What it does is it's constantly buffering. It's got a microphone that's buffering the audio for the past 1 minute. So if some student says something really interesting in class, or my students have a great pun or come up with a great joke, basically I just tap it twice on the device and it will save the audio from the past 1 minute to my phone, to the app, so that I can do anything that I want with that. I can share that out as a link, or I can download that file and put together in newsletters or send out with anything that I send home to students. I can send it with Remind that way. So this is a really neat thing. They're about $100, so it is a little bit of money, but you can also just try it out and see if you're using it with the app, with the Capture app, which is available, I think, for both Android and that. There's no camera in this one, so it's just recording the audio. But the really neat thing about it is that you're constantly trying to become more aware of what students are talking about in class and when they're doing it. And then the students will do it too, so they'll recognize, hey, that was awesome. He got that exactly right. He knew what he was talking about, and so it reminded me to double tap that to save it, so I can send that to them. I guess the last thing here that I wanted to share, because we don't have much time, is Ditto. And this one's handy for me because I guess looking at all these wearables, maybe you wouldn't tell that I have a phone addiction issue. But this one gives me notifications based on notifications from my phone. It's hooked up with Bluetooth, the same as the Capture Band is. And so this one will give me certain notifications based if I get notifications from my phone. So if I get a text from Shelly Terrell, then I get a special notification that buzzes me 3 times quickly. If I'm getting a phone call, which would be I probably wouldn't miss at school. I don't have good reception at school, but I get one buzz for a text. If somebody sends me something on Snapchat, it buzzes me 5 times really quickly. You can customize all that stuff. You can also just set alarms. So 2 minutes before the bell goes off, I might not want to warn everybody to stop what they're doing, but I might want to know that it's about time to start getting ready for class to end. So I'll be able to help them wind down rather than everybody just stopping something at one time. So much cool stuff you can do with this one. This one's really cheap. I'd say less than $50, I believe. And again, that's the Ditto band, Ditto. So something cool to check out. And of course, if you've got students, kids, then the what is it called? The Pokemon Go Plus band will be $35 coming out probably right around August 1st, unless they're back ordered because they'll be sold out. But I think you might still be able to pre-order those if you'd like on GameStop. And I know Shelly mentioned those that you won't need to. It'll take away your need for students to be on their phones. So watch out for those in class if you don't want your students to be playing Pokemon in class a lot. Yes, so that's going to be a really neat thing coming out too. There's just so many things out there. So much to check out. One of my favorite wearables that I don't have is a NFC ring, a near frequency a signal ring that one person, Steve Dimbo, has used to configure it with his lock on his door. So when he gets near to his house, his ring, whenever he gets to the doorknob, it will automatically unlock his door for him as he's going in to to go to the door. So there's so much neat stuff coming out. So much Pokemon Go goodness today and coming out. We just got to I took a look at a video of the Pokemon Go being played on a Microsoft HoloLens, and it looks amazing. It's so cool. So there's the HTC Vives that are going to be this year, Oculus Rifts. So much neat stuff to look out for. But I do hope if you haven't, check out some Google Cardboard stuff. One recommendation, because we got to go. Shelly's telling me to quit talking. Is if you download Google Spotlight Stories for Google Cardboard and check out the video Pearl. It's one of my favorites. There's so much great stuff out there, but Pearl is my favorite video that I've seen in virtual reality. It's just something that's going to just excite you to just try out more and more things. So thanks for letting me talk. I really appreciate it. And Shelly, I'll give it back over to you. Thanks. Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you to Jake for sharing those.
Thank you, Christina.
Cool technologies with us. There are some others. So wearables can be things like jewelry, like band. It could be on your head. It could be watches. The Apple Watch is one of the most, and the Android watches are some of the most used in education. So are fitness bands as well, like the Fitbit Jawbone. There's also clips. They basically clip on your shirt. They're little squares, and they can take video. They can capture video throughout your day. And those things usually do cost. So wearables are a little bit more expensive right now. To see what teachers, how they're using it with students, well, I saw a few things about Fitbit with students. This technologytailgate.com, she recently signed up for a grant so she could get Fitbits for students. And what they do is they learn good habits about health tracking. They learn about fitness. They track their fitness. You can see they learn a lot of math and science and health doing this. The PE Geek also recommends this. So there's a lot you can do with math on this and also with science and health and things like that with Fitbits. The other one that is more diverse and that a lot of teachers are using too now, are starting to use, is the Apple Watch or the Android Watch for education. So what those do is those connect to actual apps, and then you can learn with those apps on the watch as well. This is really great to make things more accessible. Like Jay kept mentioned, I think it's really important, is it's a great way to get your students to not always be using their phones in class, but instead they can start using their wearable, and the wearable teaches them good habits about health, about routines, and it gets them into doing good things with technology. And I think that's really important. So here's a Pinterest board that gives you tons of ideas of using the Apple Watch for education. You can look at some of those ideas and then use it for the Android watch as well. And I'll be collecting resources on that as well. And to learn a lot more, we've just covered some of the basics, and hopefully you get a foundation and you can see some of the ways that you can use it with your students of any age, because this is the way the future is. And the great thing is, if you start using wearable now, then your students will get used to it, because more and more wearables are becoming how we balance our digital and tech lives. It helps us to create healthy habits. It helps us track our health. It helps us to record those conversations that we have, to take pictures of our lives and document them, and just a bunch of other things. These are some hashtags that you can put on Google. You can Google these hashtags, or you can put them on Twitter and find out these awesome bloggers, these awesome resources, and the newest, latest things coming out and ways to afford them with these hashtags. So you can see all of them here: AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, Google Cardboard, wearables, Apple Watch, wearable tech. Now, there are a lot of other hashtags that come along with this, but these are the most used and the ones that I feel have the most resources, educational resources, because sometimes they just do a lot of different things. So that's it. If you want to find out more information, go to shellyterrell.com/cooltech, and you can scroll down. You'll see the bookmarks, all my pearl trees. You'll see some of the tips I have. You'll see the slides to download. And in fact, if you want to, you can even find a lot of the slides on my SlideShare. So I'll go ahead and put that right now as well, so you have this information. And if you have any questions, you can always get me on Facebook or Twitter and ask me questions. So thank you all so much. And I know we went a little over, but hopefully you learned a lot. And we'll see you next week when we talk about teaching immigrants, refugees, and border students. So that's going to be our next webinar, which was suggested by Haram in India. So we're really excited for that one. So see you next week.